Hafides and Tiro. Welcome to another episode of CNMI Weekly, and today we're joined with one of our very own native residents here on Saipan, Asia Camacho Hilario, who wears many hats, but today we're going to be talking about Saipan sound healing. But first, let's start with an introduction of yourself. Tell us about yourself. What brought you home? Because I understand that it's been over 2 decades, right? Since you last returned home. So.
Well, thank you first and foremost for having me and giving me a platform to share about this new healing modality. It's new to Saipan and the CNMI. It's not new to the world. But a little bit about me. So I was a self-love coach for 4 years. And then I just recently, last year, became a business coach, but mindset. And in my business coaching, it has to do with also trauma. I do a lot of trauma work with my clients. So essentially, I'm still a self-love coach, but I just serve entrepreneurs. I'm also a women empowerment podcaster. I'm trying to think what else I am because I wear so many hats. I just recently closed down. I had a virtual online membership to heal holistically. So holistic means including the mind, body, and soul. So I had an online virtual membership-based community that I just closed down so that I can focus on my nonprofit. And then I just launched my nonprofit, I think 3 weeks ago, Sagan Flores, and it's the CNMI's first holistic healing nonprofit. So it's moving away from Western practices of healing modalities and incorporating more of Eastern practices, which are what our ancestors used, the indigenous people used natural healing modality. So the opposite of that would be like pharmaceuticals, right? And as you know, some pharmaceuticals have really harsh side effects, whereas holistic healing medicine and modalities, there's not negative side effects to it. So my mission through that is to bring healing back to our indigenous practices, the way that our ancestors healed.
I wanted to get into what exactly brought you to that work, but first I wanted to talk about what brought you home, because it's been 20 years, like you said. So yeah, what was the moment for you that you wanted to move back, and ultimately you're giving back as well through your nonprofit, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally skipped that question. Thank you for bringing it back. So I'm also a public speaker and a motivational speaker. So companies and organizations hire me to run workshops or to do speeches. So I became a digital nomad in March, and what a digital nomad is you can live and work from wherever and just travel the world. So from LA where I lived, I was like, okay, time to travel the world. Yay, I'm out of an expensive lease, like I'm free. And so I went to Costa Rica. And then I actually came to Guam because INA Wellness Collective, which is like the biggest holistic healing organization on Guam, they had hired me to be the keynote speaker for their annual Holistic Healing Festival. So I delivered a speech in June, my birthday weekend. And so I was like, okay, well, since I'm gonna be on this side of the world, I'm just gonna live on Saipan and visit and for a few months and then go continue like my traveling. But then I got here and it's the Saipan effect, right? Where you don't wanna leave. And so initially I was gonna give sound healing sessions and just kind of like introduce holistic healing and new modalities to the island. And then I was like, wait a minute, I don't want to leave. And this was just like last month where I made the decision of like, yeah, I don't want to leave. I want to serve. I had been serving my community from afar from California where I lived 20 years ago, or for the past 20 years, pardon. And so I had been helping from afar, and it's always been my dream to open up a nonprofit here, but I never had the flexibility of where to live. And so I thought that I would launch my nonprofit when I was retired, like in my 60s or 50s. So this is actually like a new decision that I just made last month, and I'm very confident in my decision, and I'm still gonna travel the world, but my community needs me. And it is very apparent in and I'm sure we'll talk about it, it's very apparent in the feedback that I've been getting from sound healing, and I just want to serve the community like in person. I feel so alive, and I really feel like this is what I've been meaning to do at this point in my life.
You mentioned how new this is for the CNMI. So let's start there. What is sound healing, and what is this in front of us for those who might not have ever seen it before?
It's a bowl of water that we drink of.
Yeah.
So sound healing essentially is every instrument, and even singing, it emits a certain frequency and a certain vibration. And those vibrations heal on a cellular level. So it heals our DNA, it heals not only our mind, but our body and our soul. And so specifically, there are like 8 of the most powerful instruments to heal your body and your mind and your soul. And this is one of them, the crystal singing, crystal singing bowls. So during a sound bath, it's called a sound bath, you're just bathed in sounds. It's not like an actual bath where you get wet, but participants lay down and I play this amongst other instruments, and the vibrations put you in a very deep meditative state. Some people see like visions, and it's not like bad visions, it's like visions of a younger version of themselves, or it's visions of like memories they had forgotten about. And then on a body level, a lot of people don't understand or don't realize, but me included, emotions and trauma get stuck in our body. So when we feel a certain emotion or something traumatic happens to us, majority of us aren't equipped to process that, so we push it down. And so when we push it down, like anger, I know for me growing up, I wasn't allowed to express anger because that's just a form of disrespect, right? We can't just openly tell our parents, at least for me, I couldn't say I'm frustrated or I'm angry about this. So we push it down, and actually a lot of people don't know this, but anger gets stored in your back, resentment in your lower back. So what I keep receiving too is when people go to the sound baths, their back pain goes away, right? It's because emotions get stored, grief gets stored in your body, and so with the vibrations from these instruments, specifically this one, it pushes them out. So that's why typically people cry during sound healing sessions, and it's not to scare people away, but it's just you feel lighter after. It's not like when we think of crying, we think we're like fetal position on the ground, like crying like the world is ending type of cry, but it's not that. It's like a liberating, I feel lighter. So sorry, did I answer your question?
Yeah. So you're on this campaign. I know you've already had multiple events. I've seen them. The one here actually at Aqua Resort, that sold out, right? And you had a packed room. So yeah, what is next? What do you plan to do? Host more sessions? Get out there, get the word out.
Yeah, so I'm actually in talks with a bunch of nonprofits right now to serve the vulnerable, whether it be Manamco, whether it be cancer survivors, whether it be domestic violence survivors, right? Because those are very traumatic. And also sound healing helps with not just your mental health, but like I said, your physical body. So like even stress, there's like so many benefits to sound healing. And even though this is new to the island, it's been around for like thousands and thousands of years. So it started, if I can remember correctly, in Tibet, and then it just spread all over Asia and all over the world. But our ancestors used different forms of sound healing, not specifically crystals, but like drums, singing, chanting. Those emit certain vibrations, and that's how we healed as a collective. And so yes, we do that here for performances and stuff, but doing it in community intentionally to release emotions and release trauma and better our mental health. That's what I want to grow. And so my mission is to tell as many people about it, but I will be honest that I can't even explain into words, and everyone will say this when after they've done it, I can't fully explain how it is. You just have to try it. You just have to come out and try it, because it's on a, it's just really hard to explain. And my mom comes every Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I mean, who is this for? Can you bring your family, your kids, like you said, your manamko, or? Yeah,
this is honestly for everyone. I advise above 6-year-old. Although I just did one for 2 sound healing sessions for kids with autism and kids with disabilities. I forgot to mention that when I'm playing this, it puts you in a really relaxed state. So even with the kids at the library with disabilities and autism, the parents came up to me and they were like, I've never seen my kids this calm. And so even in the first one I did, there were a bunch of kids who were like initially running around, and then when I started playing it, I didn't even tell them to come sit down. They just eventually like sat down, and it was so funny because there were volunteers at the back of the room, and they actually fell asleep on the desk like while I was playing this. So it ranges from honestly any age, anyone who's open to the healing. And I will mention too that everybody has a different experience. So that's why I do an intention setting kind of ritual in the beginning where you set your own intention. So if someone has an intention of relaxing, then they're gonna get that. If someone has the intention of release, like releasing anger or resentment or whatever, sadness or grief, that's the experience they'll get. So it just depends on like what you come there for, which is super cool because it's not a one-size-fit-all healing. You just come for what you need.
I imagine that part of your intention as well might be to possibly train other sound healers.
Yeah.
So if someone's watching this, I feel like self-care, it's become somewhat trendy, but when you talk about healing, it takes it another step, right? Beyond that. So I say that because I feel like after the pandemic, a lot of people did start to focus a lot more on mental health and self-care. It is Suicide Prevention Month as well right now. But yeah, what would you say to someone who's seeing this, they're inspired by you, and they maybe want to be a sound healer one day? How did you get started? How does someone get started in this line of, kind of movement?
Taking action and doing it and believing that you can heal, right? There's a lot of, my goal for Sagan Flores, my nonprofit, so Saipan Sound Healing is under the umbrella. I don't plan on being the only healer in Sagan Flores. I plan on reaching out to other local healers and just having a collective mission because I can't do this alone. It's a community effort. So I also want to say, because it is Suicide Prevention Month, this helps with mental health issues also. So I wanted to share that I have complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which is, when we hear of PTSD, we think of the war and soldiers. So PTSD is only a one-time event that's like traumatic. Complex is when you are exposed to trauma over and over and over again for a long period of time. So that might be like abuse or neglect, right? Which also is under the umbrella of suicide prevention, right? Getting to the root of that. So CPTSD, I healed a lot of my symptoms of depression and debilitating anxiety. Like I couldn't even go to the grocery store by myself because I had so much anxiety, of social anxiety, and also a fear. I was hyper vigilant, so I would always look over my shoulder. I always felt like I was in danger. So to go from that to traveling the world by myself, I attribute a lot of it to sound healing and holistic healing because, like I said, trauma gets stuck in your body. So I was doing therapy for years, but when trauma is stuck in your body, it affects your healing. So I just wanted to mention that because that's something that a lot of people have come to me is they're processing a lot of trauma. And something very important to mention is sound bath and sound healing sessions don't re-traumatize you. I think that's why some people are like hesitant because they don't want to be re-traumatized by their trauma, but it's not. I've never had anybody come to me say that it's re-traumatizing, and in my 6 years of holistic healing, I've never had a sound healing session that re-traumatized me.
Yeah, you talk about the complexity of it. I mean, that's also what intergenerational trauma is, right? I mean, is that something you've also addressed in, in your healing, or something you've seen with your clients?
Absolutely. That's like what it's called psychodynamic coaching, where we actually go back to your childhood and see what happened there to cause your current behaviors and your patterns and your actions and your thoughts and your beliefs, because it all stems from your childhood. And we don't think that it's connected, but it 100% is.
All right. Well, thanks for your time. That's all the questions I had. I wanted to open it up. Did you have anything to share with the community?
Yeah, so I have here at Aqua, it's Sunday at 10 a.m. and then Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m.
All right, great. Well, you've heard it here from Asia Camacho Hilario. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back right after this. So Tony, can you just share with us your full name, what you do for work, and what you're working on with the fire union here?
Right. Well, the full name is Tony Spitaleri. I'm connected to the International Association of Firefighters as their field service representative, and I'm here to help the members of the newly formed union to negotiate their first collective bargaining agreement.
And so this is pretty historic for the CNMI, right? This is believed to be one of the first government union negotiations here. Is that your understanding?
Yes, it is. It's a historical setting. It'll be something that all can look at. We plan on presenting a very good outline of a collective bargaining agreement that could be used as a model. Our goal is to uh, have a system that allows to have professional people work for these various agencies and have a role model as far as if they create new collective bargaining agreements if other organizations decide to become a union.
And Tony, are you able to share where you're based out of?
I'm in California in a place called Silicon Valley, a city called Sunnyvale. It's about 30, 40 miles south of San Francisco. We're right in the middle of two major cities.
And for those who are not aware, what is your specific title or role? Are you an attorney advising them? Are you, is this something you do on the side? Can you just clarify for us?
Yes, I'm a field representative for the International Association of Firefighters. I've been doing this for close to about 45 years. I've represented different bargaining units throughout the state of California and different types of bargaining units. So I'm a consultant on one hand, but I work directly under the guidance of our International Association of Union Firefighters.
So you have a lot of experience, no doubt, in this type of bargaining agreement. I guess, is there anything specific for the CNMI? I know negotiations are ongoing, but generally speaking, in broad strokes, what are these local firefighters hoping for? And in your experience, how successful can this be?
Well, I think what the firefighters and the leadership of the firefighters group want to have and continue to have uh, a very professional operation to serve uh, the entity that they work for and the community at large. So by doing that and creating a collective bargaining agreement for both sides, the administration and the union, to come up with good provisions that will ensure professional working firefighters and dedicated to their profession. And the second part of the question, I repeat that again, please.
Yes, just based on your vast experience, I mean, how successful do you think this can be here in the CNMI? You've represented at this point maybe hundreds or even thousands of firefighters, right?
Yes, I believe it'll be very successful. We're both have the same goals, is to put an agreement that both sides can work with and live with and work together with. This is not an adversity type situation where we're upset with anything that's going on. We believe both sides are in the mindset of putting together a good agreement that both sides could work with and use as a guidance to the continuation of employer employment.
And right now, you're speaking directly with the Commonwealth Ports Authority Executive Director Leo Tudela, right?
Yes, I am.
And so, can you tell us when was your first meeting, what has happened since then, and what the timeline looks like moving forward?
I can't give you the exact date, but it was about 2 weeks ago, maybe. We had our first meeting a little 2.5 weeks ago. And we just basically introduced each other's teams to each other, talked about the philosophy and where we want to go. It was a very productive meeting. We're not meeting for another few weeks, each side to look at the agreement, to see if there's any questions or things that we might want to modify. I feel very confident with the attitude of the authority and us in trying to reach a good agreement, that we will reach a very good agreement. It may take some time because it is the first one. And usually the first one does take time because we have to look at everything that affects the terms and working conditions of the employment and the policies and procedures of the agency. So we'll have to address each and every one of them because this will be the foundation of future agreements as the years go on. We'll get the building blocks out of the way, but eventually, over the course of different contracts, and you may be aware, there'll be certain things that they'll want to look at and change, but we won't be developing the entire agreement again.
And I know you're focused on CPA right now, but any update or progress with the Department of Fire and Emergency Medical Services? Are you helping them with that at all, or?
Yes, I'm part of that too, and we're hoping to get to a point where we can sit down, as we're doing with the airport authority, to put together. It's getting them to recognize the fact that there is an organized group, and we should have the right to sit down and negotiate a contract with them also. And it's the same spirit that we're going into, is to ensure and continue to ensure that we have a professional operation for each of the entities that we'll serve.
All right, Tony, that's all the questions I had. Anything you want the CNMI community to know about these, this progress?
Other than it's very positive. We're going in there with a very positive attitude. We believe we can work together. We think we'll come out of this with an agreement that both sides can live with, and it'll ensure the citizens and those who we protect that they'll have a great professional firefighters providing the services they need.